Good day. This is BrianVee at WhyWeWork, and we are with Mr. Cameron Snow. Good day, sir. How are you doing today?
Good, buddy. 10:30 at night, Newfoundland time. So we're coming in for a late night podcast, early morning podcast in Korea, I guess.
I appreciate it. You and I were kind of messaging yesterday and thinking about, I think I was too tired, and then I put you on the flip side and put you at the nighttime rather than me on the nighttime. But I do appreciate you doing this and your willingness to do this. As you and I were just speaking a moment ago, and you and I were talking over Messenger a couple weeks ago now. You are a pretty interesting character. And you and I know one another from a different capacity, but just what seems to be a steep learning curve and change into the career path you have chosen. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe yourself, younger days, and bringing up to, but not including what you're presently doing in too much detail? We'll get into that in a little bit later.
Yeah. So, I mean, I in terms of work wise, Brian, I grew up in central Newfoundland, always worked from the time I was 14 until today, from working in a lumber yard, pumping gas. I feel like when I was 17 years old, I had more money in my bank account than when I was 25, just getting out of university, you know what I mean? And I always had a couple grand in the bank from pumping gas and whatever. But we went to university, went to Acadia, then I left there, went to Memorial, did education degree in high school education, and went and worked for a little while, and then went back to the master's in administration probably 10 years ago. Um, and I said to you before, I said, like, opportunity, we're talking in terms of career development and working or whatever, just being someone who says yes to different things, that opens doors. And that's why I'm in the work that I am now, and gained some of the good experience I had in
So
this.
Cameron, you did mention that about saying yes. Was there a light bulb moment for you, something that you experienced that said, I've been saying no for so long, or is it, where did that come from? Just realizing, because a lot of people miss those opportunities and are fearful,
Yeah,
afraid.
I think not, like, I never grew up with, I never had any money growing up in that sense, you know what I mean? And grew up with a single parent family or whatever. And I think it just started early. Like, if I wanted to have, I wanted a snowmobile, I wanted to have a motorcycle, I wanted to have my own car. And, I couldn't, that wasn't handed over to me. So it started early, I think, just wanting to have some money. That's what fueled it all, being able to go out and get these things for yourself.
What was you? I think you mentioned one of them, but I'm not sure which one it was. What was your first job, and how old were you when you got it?
First job was the summer from grade 8 to grade 9, pumping gas at the Goose Restaurant in Gander. And my friend's grandfather owned it at the time. And so he called me to fill in. A guy got sick. And I was nervous as hell. I remember getting dropped off down there saying, geez, man, you know what I mean? I'm nervous about this. And, but anyways, that ended up, I worked there that whole summer, basically. It's like, from what I can remember, I feel like I worked every day, but it was probably, 20, 30 hours a week. And then after that, this guy who was closed for summer season, then a guy that my dad knew, he delivered the Newfoundland Herald, which was like a TV guide.
Yeah.
And it was like the worst job on the planet because you didn't have like subscribers. You had to go knock on doors until you sold every friggin' one. And so I said yes to that, again, fueled by money. And when that sort of dried up, this guy, he also owned a gas station, which was a real busy place in our town. And he asked me if I'd come to work for him. And I worked there from summer in grade 9 till my first year of university, the whole time. So
You mentioned the motivation of money. So when you started working in the gas station, what did you want? I know they asked you, but why did you decide to say yes? Like, did you want
oh
a new bike at that time?
yeah, dying for a snowmobile. You know what I mean? Dying to have my own motorcycle. Had a girlfriend. You can't have a girlfriend without money. So I wanted to have a few dollars in my pocket, and
Or a wife.
or a
Yeah.
wife, or anything. So I think that was the motivator there. And plus, like, I'm not one for. I mean, some people are just super easygoing. They don't want to do anything. They just want to loaf about, and that's not me. I'm not one for staying home. Right now, I got a meeting every night of my life after work. You know what I mean? Because I'm involved with different committees and volunteer organizations and stuff like that. So,
As you were growing up, you said a single family home. Was there someone in your life that you recognized as a very hard worker? As someone that, thinking back,
well,
s-
my mom, obviously. I mean, we're mom's boys. You know what I
we
mean?
are
And my mom, she worked. She had two kids. You get older, you look back at that, you're like, geez, man. I said, Mom,
how
how
they
old
do
were you?
it.
Yeah, how old were you then? And she's like, well, geez, I was only like 28. You know what I mean? If I see someone that's 28 now, I'm like, man, you're just a kid, right? So my mom, I guess, she was a hard worker, and she never took any BS from anybody, us included. You know what I mean? I heard you the other day talking about your kids buying bikes, and one of your little girl getting upset because she didn't get a new bike. Well, my mom took a hard line on that stuff. She didn't care. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like stone cold face, but that was her survival, I think. You know what I mean? And if she said I
Absolutely.
was grounded for 2 weeks, by the way, it was 2 weeks. She didn't
Oh,
fold.
see, now you're challenging me because I was gonna let off because they apologized, but no, I might stay to it. Yeah, my mom was tough too, very
Yeah,
tough, but apparently it worked. We're doing all right.
yeah.
So you're into your profession. How did you decide to get into education per se?
Uh, I did a political science and history degree. And as soon as I was finished that, I started working with employment insurance in Gander at home. And I remember at the time saying, if I can make 40 grand a year and live in Gander, I am going to be, that's it. I'm set for life.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I got down in this claims processing unit where it was basically data entry and that kind of stuff. And I fizzled. You know what I mean? That is not me. I didn't want to be sitting in a cubicle pumping in numbers all day on the phone. So, in the midst of a perfectly good job, my friend Sandy Collins and I, he had a political science degree too. He was selling cell phone cases at the mall. We left and we went to Korea in 2001.
I think that could make a
Excuse me.
good movie, eh? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
throw away the insurance and the cell phones and off with a
Yeah,
backpack on.
yeah. So it was a big move, but I knew that I was still young. I had lots of time to settle in, and I always had faith in myself that I would land on my feet in terms of finding good work. You know what I mean?
So was it
So
an experience to go into education or just get out of Dodge?
it was a lot of different things, Brian. It's something I talked about as a kid because this guy Jeff Green from Gander, he had went away into Korea, and I always thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if he was in Korea. I thought
Yeah,
everywhere
yeah,
was Korea back then, and you know, so it was just something that I said, well, this is it. It's now or never. Because
yeah.
once I get a new truck and buy a house and stuff, that's it. I'm locked in. So we went, and just after September 11th happened, which was a little odd time in Korea. Tensions were high or whatever, but it
Mm-hmm.
was a good experience, and I did like the work. You know what I mean? I did like being around like students. I liked the schedule. I knew back home we'd have summers off. I thought that was pretty good at the time. Didn't realize how good it really would be until you become an adult. And that's sort of what feeded it. So when we were in Korea, we applied to do education at Memorial University in Newfoundland, and both of us got in. So we came back and went to university in September.
How long is that program? I looked a little bit into that a few years
At,
ago.
at Memorial, it's 3 semesters, bang, 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 right in a row. So it's first
After your
semester.
bachelor degree, yes?
Yeah, yeah. It's you do 6 courses. Then you do like an internship or whatever for a full semester. Come back in the summer and do 6 more courses. And you can also get a technology certificate if you started the summer before that, which is actually it was a pretty good thing at the time. 2001 technology
Yeah.
certificate opened some doors, right?
What were you specializing in? What was your aim? What were you hoping to teach?
Uh, well, like in order to be a teacher, in Newfoundland, get a teaching license, you have to have two teachable subjects. So mine were political science and history; those are teachables. If you had like sociology and psychology, they wouldn't be considered teachable areas.
So this was high school? Was this
Yeah,
this
high
high
school. Yeah,
school?
sorry. Yeah, yeah. I knew I was going to go to the high school. I didn't have much interest in junior high. you know, it's way too many hormones going on in junior high, and it's a pretty tough place. If you can survive as a grade 9 teacher, you can do anything. I can tell you that.
And teaching in Korea, you realized not elementary.
Yeah, elementary, that was it. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't have
no brainer.
I don't have the soft touch for that, I don't think. You know what I mean? But the high school is where I ended up, and yeah, that's where I ended up.
How long were you teaching in a classroom?
Well, I taught in like I ended up, my first job back in Newfoundland was in an island off of Newfoundland. So there was like 28 kids in the school from K to 12. That was a yes moment too, Brian, because I was like, okay, I can take a permanent job on an island where evidently you can't buy green pepper. You know, if you want milk, you got to order it and it comes in with your initials on it. In order to get off of there, you got to take a ferry, then go drive another whatever to get to my home, get to my hometown. But it was a permanent job, and I
Yeah.
just said, yes, let's go. So I worked out there 2 years, kindergarten to grade 12. And well, I remember in the interview, the guy said, do you know anything about technology? Now, I mean, I thought it was okay. We went to Acadia. We all had a laptop. I thought that was like, you know, and I was like, oh, yeah, no problem, no problem. What about biology? Oh, yeah, no problem. Do you ever do a biology course? Oh, yeah, I did a couple, but I never, you know what I mean? I
Yes,
wanted to get a
yes, sir.
job.
Yeah.
And so anyway, my first year out there, I taught phys ed K to 12. And in my kindergarten to grade 3 phys ed class, I could take them all for a ride in my car. There was 4 of them, you know what I mean? So like you do things like picking blueberries and come back and make muffins, stuff like that. Like you couldn't even, there wasn't enough to have a game of anything
Yeah.
really. And taught technology and grade 12 biology course where they write a standardized exam at the end. So there was a bit of pressure there, you know. There's only 3 people, and like one guy was sick all the time, and this other girl, she was like pretty clever, so she would be gone away doing other things. So lots of times it was just me and one other guy. His name was Philip. I'd be like, "Okay, class, we're going to the computer room," and it was just one guy sitting there, you know. But it was good experience, good chance to get your feet wet. Definitely. And after that, I said, "Yeah, okay, I'm going to stick with this." So I ended up in a bigger school then, 600 people,
Mhm.
the next year. Looking after a co-op education program, which was a work experience program through school, right?
How did you find with that program the attitudes of, this is high school
Yeah,
kids and their outlook
they
on
loved it.
work?
They loved it. These guys, like, I don't know, like Brian, like different places in the world, different things, you know.
Yeah.
But most of the people were in this co-op program. They were there because they didn't really love school to begin with.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were working 3 days a week, they thought they were in their all their glory. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And these were young fellas that were cutting wood on the weekends and selling it and mowing grass, and girls were babysitting. Like they all had a fever for it anyways. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's funny because I see a lot of these guys now. I mean, that was 15 years ago now. And I see these students around, and some of them are like working in the field that they went into the co-op program. I seen one girl, I seen one girl the other day. She got 3 kids, and small kids, probably all under 6 years old. And she went to do her co-op placement at a daycare center. And like before you do your co-op placement, you had to do all these personal interest surveys and all these things that would like weigh your interest, right? And she was hell bent on going to daycare. And after like 2 days there, she came in my office crying, right? She's like, I hate kids. I don't want to be in a daycare. I want to go do it. I want to be a beautician. I'm never going into daycare again. So I seen her in the mall. I'm like, geez, you're doing pretty good for someone who didn't like kids in your co-op. And she laughed, right? She knew exactly like what was going on, right? But
Don't like
anyway,
kids, but you got a
well,
half
you
a
got a
dozen.
half a minivan full. Yeah, funny.
So how long, because you're not in teaching now, so how long in total were you teaching?
So I'm still considered a teacher. Like I'm still under a teacher's contract. I still have an office in the building, in a school building. So it's been this will be 19 years now. But my primary job now is dealing with, say, students who are dropped out or failed out or have babies or are in drug rehab or have like, you know, really different family scenarios where they got no support. So that's my like job now. It's like it's called a pass teacher, a pass program, and the objective is to get people a diploma. excuse me, but in my time in the classroom and between then and now is when I got into like curriculum development and this kind of thing, right? So I still work in school, but I do this other work on the side and through school board and stuff like that.
You mentioned depending on where you go, people have different perspectives, and you are what we would say from Canada on the rock.
Right.
Would you say in your life experience of traveling and being from kindergarten to grade 12 and now students who are having a little bit of more difficulty, that there's a different perspective on the rock about work, or do you find that everyone's facing the same problems and difficulties? How would you
Like,
define that?
okay, so history defines people. You know what I mean? Newfoundland was a hard place to live in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Depression hit hard, but people around here are resourceful. You know, people say you can sew an ass in a cat. Well, that's like a Newfoundland way. You know, they make things work. They don't throw things out. They survive the depression. You know, so like, you know, like I think the biggest shift and change and that kind of stuff has been social media and this era, the cell phone
Yeah.
in your hand. That is what has changed things, you know. And I think that's global. Doesn't matter where you are,
So
right?
for your students, go ahead.
I mean, like Brian, I say like 20 years ago when I started, like, you know, or 15 years ago in here in Grand Falls, that students were working. They were the guys that were out cutting wood, making money. They did whatever they could to make a dollar. You know what I mean? Tearing down fences, whatever somebody wanted done, they would do it. But now you like in my class in school, if I put it to call, say, listen, my neighbor, he wants someone to put down patio stones.
Yeah.
That's a hard day's work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there. You know what I mean? It's like tumbleweed blown across. People are like you got the plague. They're getting away from you as quick as they can when they hear that. So that there has been a shift, I think.
Would that be what, maybe I can't define it that well, but that opposed, I mean, Korea has this it's all over the world. I think it, generally speaking, like Korea had the war up until 1940s. And so people in the 1950s and 60s and 70s remembered that.
Sure.
People in the 80s, 90s, thousands, they don't remember it. They're just told about it. And now there's a little shift towards people are more victims and they have less of a desire to work and a need to, because Koreans are resourceful people too. Like they would be,
Well,
go
yeah, I'll
ahead.
give you a prime example, okay? And this goes back to Acadia, and it was a statement made during all this COVID crisis by the student union president, probably like a month ago. And the Nova Scotia farmers were concerned that they wouldn't have enough seasonal laborers coming to Nova Scotia to pick apples and harvest whatever when the time came. And they said, well, it'd be a good opportunity for university students. The government is going to pay them X number of dollars to work or volunteer in the summer anyways. And the student union president of Acadia said that, no, you know, we got future doctors, lawyers, blah, blah, blah on our hands. And I think that basically what he said was this kind of labor work is beneath someone here at university. And I think that's the exact opposite because, you know, you work hard, you do these crappy jobs and stuff. And when you get to that point where you got a nice job and your work situation is fine, you can always look back in that. You never forget those things, you know? I mean, I did everything from whatever people wanted me to do, you know? And I don't forget how good that I have it now, right? I don't forget my hours of work are good. I don't forget that I don't come home like, you know, physically beat up every day, mentally some days, sure. You know, that my summers are off and these kind of things. Like there's different perks for all kinds of different kinds of jobs. People get to see the world, whatever. So you got to do these crappy things, I think, to put it in perspective. It was the best thing that could happen to people in university, I think.
That's very unfortunate.
He got criticized widely for that. Like there was a lot of backlash over that. And
can you imagine
like
saying that to your kid? Like, hey, no,
yeah,
that's beneath, you know.
yeah, essentially that's what he's saying. Yeah. And like I got lots of people from our like old days on Facebook, this kind of stuff. So like a lot of them commented to the university and stuff, and we're like, man, this guy needs to write a letter of apology, and he needs to whatever. But I don't know what happened of it after. But that was his initial statement. It was like in a Chronicle Herald or something. You know what I mean?
Well, I think like what job you're doing, it takes other people too to kind of balance the keel, um, like parents and mentors and people, and not to just listen to the president of Acadia University and take
Yeah,
your cues from him, because obviously that can't be true. Even if people are doing it not for the money, but just doing it for the experience, just to learn. I mean, in Korea, many Koreans do not have jobs until they're finished university, and the first job that they receive, that's their career.
yeah, yeah. Different, in the whole university structure and the grades and the pressure coming out of high school for Korean kids is a different scenario than here. And it's stressful, right?
What are you doing now? So what are you doing now?
So what do you mean, like work wise?
Work wise, like this,
Okay, so
what does your day look like now? So you've started from a hagwon, an academy, and the other side of the
right,
world. You started teaching, you moved yourself into administrative role, and now, as you mentioned to me earlier, you have a lot of kettles in the fire.
yeah. So basically, I am co-authoring a career development course that's going to be mandatory for students in the province. Um, this year, this is what we're up to, and there's a team of four of us plus someone from the Department of Education. So that's going to be released in pilot now in September, and then released to everybody in Newfoundland and Labrador the next year. Just signed a contract with a textbook company. Going to do some curriculum writing for them. Basically, what better person to hire on than someone who just wrote the guide? You know what I mean? Someone just wrote a guide. Now we're going to do activities in a textbook, and we're going to try to sell it to the province. You know what I mean?
Is this independent, or is
That
this
is,
part
yeah.
of your job? It is.
No, it's independent, yeah. And the year before, a couple years before that, I did. When I was teaching in the classroom, I taught occupational health and safety, and students would have a first aid certificate, an occupational health and safety certificate, a WHMIS card, and I'd get them to do like the brush cutting course, chainsaw course, flagsman course. Like I'd make arrangements so they could just go do it. You know what I mean? And the school would pay for lots of it. The school paid for first aid and WHMIS. And as a result of that, then I did. They wrote a new curriculum guide for that, and I did all the. It's like a column 4 spread kind of deal for a teacher guide. So I did all the suggested learning activities for the entire guide, and then we just co-authored another course called Employment and Labor Relations, which is a half a year course focused mainly on like a union structure and the evolution of work safe standards and this kind of thing.
Cameron, what is your biggest joy you get from your job?
Biggest joy is when student, I follow some of these people from grade 7 right to grade 12 or maybe a year later when they walk across and get that diploma, period. Half on the cry, Brian. You know what I mean? Like you invest your heart and soul into these guys, lots of them, and their family and their aunts and uncles. Like I'm like half like Dog the Bounty Hunter. You know what I mean? I'm down in people's yards, like passing them worksheets, saying, "If you don't finish this friggin' worksheet, you're not gonna graduate high school." And that's what I'm up to. So you put heart and soul into a lot of these kids, and that's the end of the day. That's where you get happy. You know what I mean? That's where, and it's people who are in difficult situations. People have medical issues. Mental health is bigger and bigger every
Hmm.
day in schools. Uh, you know, like I'm not saying there wasn't mental health issues when we were in school in the 90s, but I do know that it has become more prevalent and more severe. And you don't need to be an expert to figure that out. So like all these different things.
What is your biggest difficulty, your biggest challenge?
Attendance. I can't help you if you're not in school.
Oh, it's horrible. Eh?
You know what I mean? Like I've been to people's houses, Brian, excuse me, where there's friggin' loose rabbits running around the house. So like parent A has rabbits running around the house, peeing and pooping all over the house, and their primary concern is not getting their kid to school. You know what I mean? They can't get
School
themselves
is
dressed.
not number one.
No. So and like I got a good working relationship with some of like child protective services, social work. Like when things like this happen in school, a lot of times I'm the go-to person for like other agencies to contact, basically to see what's going on, right? In extreme cases. So I mean, these people, they work hard, they put their heart and soul into it as well. But at the end of the day, I can't go grab you by the shirt and drag you down the road into school, right? Someone's got to be in your corner advocating for you to get there, or you got to want to do it yourself.
Cameron, if people wanted to find you, how could they find you? What would be a good way to find you if they, especially, I mean, many things, but career development, writing curriculum, talking. I think you probably have a wealth of knowledge about how to guide and lead students. And as you and I spoke before, saying what we came up from, um, I think kids get that rather than being, say the president of Acadia coming to talk to some kid and say, hey, now you go this path. And we'll say, well, listen, I know how difficult it is. I know some of these difficulties. What would you, how can people find you? Because I think you have even more than just your job aspect.
You could probably post my email in the link if you put it on YouTube.
Okay.
Right, and that'll be my personal one. You just sent it to me, so it's cameron.snow0272@gmail.com. So if someone wants to send me an email, sure, no problem reaching out.
What would you have for advice on both sides of the coin of, say, the workers, and especially in education or just generally people who find even right now difficulty keeping a job, having a job, doing what they do, enjoying what they do, and the other side, even from a student perspective, looking towards entering the workforce? What would be your advice?
Well, the world of work has changed in most places. Like in 1960, men went into factories, and they came out 40 years later, with cancer and a retirement check and a watch. That those days are over. So, like if you're a student going into the world of work, like face people head on. Don't be shy, even if you are. Like put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to shake hands. You might look at yourself as a kid, but if you don't act like one, people won't look at you like a kid, if that makes sense. If you're that grade 11, grade 12 student who is really eager to work, but you're kind of sheepish, like it's going to take every draft of life out of you to go do it, but go shake the guy's hand. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and like make personal contact. And you can never be too eager to get work, Brian. So like first entering the job market, just like if you got to step on a few toes or do whatever, if you want to work, just do whatever's necessary, But emailing your buddy and TikToking and FaceTiming and all this stuff, that's fine and dandy for your own generation. But most typically people are going to be our age or older. They want to see you face to face. So you come up, you knock on the door, you say you're looking for a job. You don't care what it is. You just want to get some experience. And that's important. You know what I mean?
That's how I got my present job. I walked up to the door and had my resume in hand. And this is 2018 when this happened.
Excuse me. Exactly. Right? Like I'm after doing 5,000 cover letters, Brian. Okay, as a career development teacher, right?
Yeah.
So, first paragraph is a paragraph of where you found what you're applying for. So, please consider this an application for employment with a job at Busan University, as seen advertised in the Korean Herald. Paragraph number 2. As a new student entering the world of work, I'm eager to enhance my skills through part-time employment. Period. You know what I mean? It's like cookie cutter across the board, but that's what you're doing. You want to enhance your skills. You don't have, not to say you don't have any. And if you're having trouble finding a job, volunteer. And I can't stress that enough because I spend hours and hours and hours volunteering. You know what I mean? And that volunteer work has also led in some nice opportunities for myself too. You know what I mean? And volunteer is work experience, period. Volunteering is work experience, period. Sometimes more valuable because you're not doing it for a paycheck and people recognize that, Yeah.
And pick some apples.
Pick some apples. Don't put all the bad ones on the bottom and the good ones on top.
Right? Integrity. And have some integrity.
Exactly.
Right? Think what your mama would like.
And Brian, like you asked, like someone our age who hates their work, like you're not content. Leave. Yeah. Why would you suffer it out? Why would you put yourself through that? And I've said that to people 1,000 times. Don't be intimidated by the job market.
Yeah.
Don't think for 5 seconds that you're stuck in a dead end job or a job that you hate, because if you want it, you can get it. And that's the bottom line. If you like, you set your mind, you want to go work in the university. Well, guess what? That's what you did, right? If I want to leave teaching today and I want to go work on the oil rigs as a
Hmm.
human resources consultant, I can do it. I know I can. I just, you know what I mean? You just got to go after it. And whatever that is, if you're in a dead end job now, or you just hate your life because of your work, don't stay there. It's not worth it.
There's another element, Cameron, I think, and it's good to say if people dislike their job, but also, you may not like your job, but that's okay, or you may not get complete satisfaction from your
Sure.
job. But find, I mean, I see you on Facebook. You live the most liveliest life. You have all the toys. You
Mhm.
you enjoy yourself when you have your free time.
Sure.
So there's another aspect to it. So even though you might be in a factory, stacking cups or making
Yeah.
widgets or
I'm
something.
not saying your job got to be like some dynamic thing, but if you don't like it, doesn't matter what it is. Like
Yeah.
when I talked about working at that employment insurance place, data entry, the girls that worked around me, they loved their
Love
job,
their
Brian.
job. Great point.
They loved it. If I had to say to them, listen, can you go up and speak to this group of people and tell them whatever, or have an in-face meeting? They didn't want that. Like that was not their cup of
Yeah.
tea,
Yeah.
and they would have hated that.
You said that right from the beginning. It wasn't for you. Like
Right?
that's all you said. It
Yeah.
wasn't for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Like my better half, she works in the hospital. She's a dialysis nurse. Like anything to do with medical, the smell of the hospital, you can peel me off the floor. Like you know what I mean? And there's lots of people that love that work. I'm not
Uh-huh.
saying that.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I'd love to be a snowplow operator, Brian. I always
yep.
say to my students, they're like, "What's your dream job?" I'm like, "I like to be a snowplow operator. Put on work boots, put on a pair of jeans, and drive around town plowing snow, smoking cigarettes. You know what I mean? Dream
I
job."
smoking darts. I got a buddy in Halifax. Grew up in Sackville. He's a snowplow operator. I remember the old commercials. It was, "This ain't no feather duster." Right? Get out of the guy's way. No, what would you say to the people who are a little discouraged in their job,
Don't be.
discouraged about their
Keep
work?
going. Like discouraged and looking for a job.
Either or they're just
If
working and they lost the drive, the initiative. They feel like they're spinning or
mm,
they're kind of
like
forgetting their bearings.
if you're discouraged and looking for work, ask for help, first of all. Like there's all kinds of employment centers everywhere. And people think, oh man, like I don't need to go there. But you never know, like someone just to dust up on your resume, a dust up on your cover letter, even something simple as practicing.
Yeah.
Like if you called me today and said, listen, Cameron, I'm applying for work. Um, I'm applying for work where as a at the college for curriculum development. Then
Hmm.
I'm like, bing, you just hit the right person. So me and you are going to talk for an hour about curriculum development and what's the process. And I'm going to ask you questions, what engage what you know about it. Like that there, that's what gets you the job is these kind of conversations
Yeah.
because you prepped, you know what I mean? Go
And
to
you,
the place. I always say to young people, if you get an interview somewhere, like you go to Toronto, like in Newfoundland, it's no big deal. You can like drive there on your quad, like you know what I mean. But if you're in Toronto somewhere, you got a job interview the next day, like the day before, go down there and see
hmm
where it is. Like go into building because
comfortable.
you can get in panic mode quick too, right?
Yeah.
You show up at that interview, you're like sweating because you like missed the bus and you didn't know where you were going. So like prep work makes a big difference. And if you're in your job now and you like seriously hate it, or you're getting discouraged with it, and you feel like it's like going nowhere, reevaluate what is it you want, right? Have a real chat, have a chat with your partner, have a chat with your parents, have a chat with whoever, and talk about it. Say like, this is not what I want to be doing, and recognize that first of all, and then make a decision, yes or no. Am I going to do something about it, right? And if you say no, I'm not going to do nothing about it, then stop being disgruntled, stop complaining. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Just just work and do
Cut
your
off.
thing, but don't complain about it. And if you
Yeah.
say, yeah, I'm going to try, then I would never say to an adult, especially with family responsibilities, whatever. Listen, quit that job and get out of it. But you start
Yeah.
dipping your toes in and looking around to see what's out there.
Absolutely.
And you never leave one without something in your back pocket. I'm a firm believer in that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Don't leave yourself
Don't
high and
go
dry
out on a whim.
financially. yeah, like Jerry Maguire, who's coming with me? Like, no, you know what I mean? Get on Indeed, get on Monster, start looking around to see what's out there for you that is of interest. And like, it's so funny because I had an interesting conversation with my friend the other day. He's got a physics major and a math minor. He was a teacher. It didn't work out for him, like the people side of things. You know what I mean? It wasn't his cup of tea.
Mhm.
And I started talking to him about things that you could do. And the other day I sent him a job. The RCMP, which is the police force in Canada, we're looking for basically an electronics technician for bugging places. That's what it
Okay.
is. They don't say that, but it's for like bugging
Yeah, yeah,
homes.
yeah,
And I sent it to him, and he's electronic whiz,
yeah,
right? And like he said, man, this is the first time I got excited about a job in forever. So he threw his hat in the ring, and he's going to apply, and and go through the process. But like, think outside the box. Don't think because, man, I just worked here for 20 years that's all you got. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You'd be surprised at the things that you're good at, and that's why volunteering comes into is an important factor too, because you can grow your resume 10 times than what your work experience will be.
Cameron, I appreciate this immensely. You've
But
been. I wish we. I mean, I don't even know the last time we saw one another. It must have been around 2000, 1999, 98,
1999, baby. That's some song, isn't it?
right? Something. Oh. Can you tell me in your final plea for the worker, encouragement for the worker, why do you work, Cameron?
Why do I work? Well, obviously for financial reasons. Like anybody who, I mean, that's you got to have money to survive. So that's my number one my number one.
Do you know what the funny thing is? I'm gonna find. Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna find
Sure.
everyone says this, and and my temptation was to pass over it. But I think there's a lot of people that don't realize you need it to survive.
Yes,
Like,
you
it's
gotta
really
if you want.
simple. People don't get that
Yes,
too. Like, oh, the
yeah.
government will pay for me, or my parents, or I don't need to work.
Well, you can like and if you can have the lifestyle you want in that way, well, fair enough. If my
Uh-huh.
parents were millionaires, I don't think I'd still be sitting on the couch. I'd be
No.
working. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's just in me. But and like I get a lot of satisfaction out of my work, Brian. Like sitting on a computer all day writing curriculum. No, that's not really satisfaction. But that kid you put heart and soul into from grade 7 to now. The single mom, the kid who had cancer, the kid who had a heart valve transplant, the kid who came out of drug rehab on the other side of it. Like there's no money you can pay for that. And like the beautiful part is being in a small town, you see the end result of that 10, 15 years later. Like, like that girl I seen in the mall with her kids, right? So she's 31 or 32 now, and she's working and she's doing fine. She got a nice husband, whatever, right? She's happy. And like, they don't ever forget that. You don't ever forget people in your corner. And Brian, you look back grade 10, grade 8, grade 9, whatever, when you were like, being a nuisance to society, the people that stood in your corner and stood up for you, you never forget those guys.
Not at
And
all.
that's important. I want to be that guy, right? So that's the reason why I work.
It's funny too, because I think, as you said, pouring your heart and soul into these people. And I remember a middle school, you mentioned junior high school, and our vice principal, Mr. Clattenburg, one of the greatest guys you could ever meet. And one day, like many years later, I walked up to him. He didn't remember me in
Yeah.
particular, but I was always in trouble. So I thought that if he was going to remember me, it was going to be because I was in
Yes.
trouble. And
Exactly.
the thing is, I just remembered him. He was such a kind person, always willing to help get you out of the trouble, adjust as he could. And I think we may not even realize how, if we're being, as you're saying, an example for some of these people to encourage them to work, we
Yeah.
may not remember them specifically, but they certainly will remember us. And if we do something on the opposite end, something to harm them, then they're going to remember
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah. You don't realize the damage you can do with words, especially for young people. You know what I mean? And it's hard to be cognizant of that all the time
I know, right?
when you've got 500 students coming and going, but you really got to be aware of that. And you remember the good. You remember, like, we just had to give farewell speeches to the graduation class, and mine was like, my advice was, don't be afraid to give someone a second chance.
Yeah.
Right? People deserve second chances.
That's a good one, eh? I've never
Yeah.
heard that before.
Yeah. And, I was like, don't be afraid to give second chances. You never know. You might find the best employee, the best friend, or maybe the best relationship you ever had, and end up 65 years married on the NTV local news. Like,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
my words of wisdom. And don't take the easy route. That was my second thing, right? Like, there's lots of
Don't
stuff
be
will come in your way. Just don't take the easy route like I did.
don't be don't be afraid to give second chances, and don't take the easy route, and always say yes. And always say yes.
Facts.
Cameron Snow, I appreciate you
Don't
immensely.
sweat, man.
You take care and keep
Take
working over
care.
there. And
You keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. And I thank you for your advice and things that you've been saying too in Messenger. I will take those to heart and adjust.
Beautiful.
Take
Talk
care,
later.
Cameron. Yes, sir.
Thanks, man.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
And this is Brian V at Why We Work. We do appreciate anyone that would like to be interviewed, and I do appreciate Cameron today.